Hey family, this is Dr. Sabrina here, and welcome to day number 21 of the 28 days of love. Yes, the 28 days of love. And so every day for 28 days, we have been talking about some elements of love and all different types of love. So we've talked about the love of money. We've talked about self-love. We talked about loving God's way. We've talked about passion and those types of love. But today we're going to talk about an aspect of love that sometimes is very difficult for us, because I'm going to talk about the 4 stages of forgiveness. Because at the end of the day, everybody that we're in contact with is not going to always do the things that we want, and people will hurt us, they will disappoint us, they will frustrate us, they will make us mad, all of those things, and they may hurt us. And so because of those things, we need to get to a point that we really understand the stages that we go to and go through to get to forgiveness. And so the first stage is hurt. When someone does something that hurts you, and it hurts you deeply, and you need to recognize it, you need to acknowledge it, you need to experience it, and you need to deal with it. Because anything that you don't deal with, anything that you try to sweep up under the rug or you stuff inside of you, will create problems for you health wise. Because we have to move this negative energy, we have to move it out of us. And so when we do that, when we move the hurt, when we experience it and be honest with ourselves about the hurt, it can't linger, it can't stay around, it can't affect us if we really acknowledge and deal with the hurt. So you have to acknowledge that what they did hurt you, be honest with yourself. That's stage number 1. Stage number 2 is the hate stage. And yes, sometimes it will show up even when we don't want it to. And hate is the anger, the irritation that you feel when you see the person. You might want to clock them. You may feel like, you may clench your teeth. You may ball up your fists. And so really check in with yourself and ask yourself, how do you handle when you're really angry? How do you handle? What happens in your body when you're very angry, so that you can begin to understand what's going on with you and how to work through it? Because it's going to show up. And when it shows up, you can't just stuff it, because the stuffing again creates a problem for ourselves health-wise. And so we don't want to create spaces where we mad at somebody else, but it is negatively impacting us. No, we don't want to do that. So we have to deal with the hate. We have to deal with the hurt, and we have to deal with our space and how we're feeling and how we're dealing with the betrayal, the type of thing that happened that caused you to even need to forgive the person in the first place. And then stage number 3 is the hook stage. Oh my goodness. And when I think about the hook, it's like when you feel validated that you have a right to be angry, you have a right because they wronged you, you can get hooked in that. And because you're hooked in that and you want to stay in that, you feel validated at unforgiveness. And unforgiveness is a block for you. It is not a block for the other person. The other person may have moved on. They may have gone on to do something else, and they ain't even thinking about what they did to you, but you're still thinking about it. You're still holding a grudge. You're still hooked into that negativity, and that negativity can take you down, 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 baby. So make sure that you don't get hooked. When that hook goes into you, you have to work it out of you. You're just not the victim. You can't stay the victim, because when you create that as your story, that everywhere you go you're telling that story, that is your reality, how do you get to healing? How do you get to the place that you're okay? How do you get to the place that you don't move past it? Yes. So the hook stage is stage number 3. And then the final stage is the healing stage. And the healing stage is when you know that you've got to the point that you're not feeling that anxious feeling in your stomach when you see that person. You're not agitated when you hear their voice. You can see them and be cordial. You can even, if you have the opportunity to bless them, you can bless them. If you have an opportunity to help them, you can help them, because you've moved past the hurt. You've moved past the hate. You're no longer hooked in control and you're really on a path of peace, forgiveness, getting to the point that you don't let those feelings rise up into you anymore, that is a great space to be. And so there's no residue. There's no residue of the anger, no residue of the hurt. You really have moved to a place of forgiveness. And so healing is the place we all want to get to, because at the end of the day, when you are angry, when you are unforgiving, when you are all of those things, you're creating a block for you. You're creating a block for your blessings. You want to open yourself up so that you're open for God to send you all the things that He has for you. I want what God has for me, so I don't want to be in a place of unforgiveness with anybody. So you need to really ask yourself, are there some remnants of some unforgiveness in me? And I know for me, it was a couple of years ago I had spoke and I was talking about love, and one of the pieces I talked about was forgiveness, and I shared the story about how I knew I had forgiven my ex-husband for the way he had left and all of that, because there was an opportunity to bless him with an opportunity, and I went ahead and I did it. And he was surprised that he got the call from me because he wasn't paying child support at that time and we were beefing. But I really got to the place that I knew that God was pleased with me. I knew it didn't have nothing to do with him and everything to do with what God is doing for me. So I didn't want to have the Jonah moment. Because in the Jonah moment, Jonah had instruction, but because he didn't like who God told him to go and deliver a word to, he didn't go. He didn't want them to deliver it. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that angry with somebody that if God tells me to help them, I don't help him. If God tells me to give him a word, I don't give him the word. And God tells me to forgive, and I don't forgive. So I gave that testimony. The church was riling. It was a wonderful speaking engagement. And the next day, someone called and asked me to sit on a panel, and they were talking about the people that were going to be on the panel. And one of the people, I said, oh, no. If that person's going to be on the panel, I can't be on the panel because I don't like that. But I began to tell a story about something that happened. Now, it's 25 years ago. And I told it like it was yesterday. And while I was telling the story, the Holy Spirit just spoke in my ear and said, wasn't you the one yesterday talking about all this? You so forgiving? You hadn't forgiven. So you got to forgive. And forgiveness takes many forms. Sometimes you do have to go to the person and let them know that you forgive them, because based on their space in your world, like my ex-husband, we had to have that discussion because he's the father of my child. I was going to have to still deal with him. And so I needed to get that right so that I would not be modeling negative behaviors to my son, because kids don't just do what you say, they do what you do, and they do what they see. So what are you modeling in the world to your family members, to your children? Are you modeling what healing and love really looks like? Because there is an absolute peace and love in forgiveness. So that's day number 21 of the 28 Days of Love. Hashtag 28 Days of Love. Follow me on Instagram and follow my YouTube page at The People Expert. Love you. See you tomorrow.